Hmm. Alrighty, we are getting ready to get started. It's day, no, not day four, it's session four, it's part four of the Start with Why. And we are getting ready to get started. So I'm going to see if I can share. Maybe, maybe not. It's okay. So here we are. All right. We've covered quite a bit lately. I think one of the biggest aspects within this book is the golden circle. So I've left it up here for our recap as we've continued to go through. As I've mentioned, you can have the physical book, which I have a link. So you can grab that off Amazon. I always love when you can use my links because I get a little tiny, tiny kickback for those. So I was trying to be smart and savvy with anything referrals or affiliates. But we're also this is available on Spotify if you've got a Spotify membership. So it's available for free for the audiobook. I've really enjoyed I've read this book now 3 times and listening to the audiobook, reading it, really integrating it into you and how you function and how you run your business. It is definitely one of those to keep coming back to, as well as it is so incredibly true. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but some of the consulting work that I used to do in organizations, and I would get wrapped up. Culture always comes up in everything, especially when you're doing communications advisory or just consulting on projects and change management and things along that nature. And it was ironic how much culture differentiated from place to place, and these little subtle things that I would pick up on because that's just who I am. I pick up on these things and identifying certain keywords that people were saying or how they were avoiding certain topics or talking about a certain topic all the time. And especially when you're new, when you're in a consultant coming in, you pick up on those things more than people that are there. And I would start to wonder where these thoughts came from or why the behavior is that way. And I started noticing these trends of then I would meet the CEO or I would watch a video from the CEO or I'd hear stories about the CEO and what he thought was important and his values. And that's the truth. Majority of places, the CEO is a man. Um, and that's a whole nother topic that I won't go into. But the values and the very subtle beliefs that were happening were having this ripple effect. And kind of like this golden circle, when you drop something in the pond, it has this ripple that comes out. This was happening and noticing those trends in the next organization, and I'd see it and I'd pick up more things. And it was just reinforcing this. I was like, wow. And I started to notice that it was really much like the socioeconomic um, model. Why that was hard to think of, the socioeconomic model in how it's this beliefs being trickled down. And then as I learned about SMART, with a capital S, or capital, no, it's lowercase s, capital MART, agile, that they have a very similar model to the socioeconomic model. It's just been integrated into business and how we do project management and how we distribute work down and how that plays out. And this very much is in alignment with what we are talking about here. So when we are looking at our why, know that as a business owner, and you all know I've said this before for those who follow or are in the group, owning your own business is the biggest self-development journey you will ever be on because your business is a direct reflection of you and your beliefs. And so this is why I was talking about the CEO and this trickling down, because little beliefs that you have that you are not fully aware of how much you act on them or how much you talk about them or how much they impact things. Literally, sometimes we are not that aware of them and we did not consciously choose them, or we chose them because of a past experience. For example, for one of the companies that particularly stands out in my mind, I won't mention the company, but the CEO had worked at another company where hierarchy and titles and um, having those titles and being very stuck on those titles and kind of being like, well, this is my title, had a very negative impact on him. And I can definitely see how that would happen. But he went to the extreme and he didn't really want people to have a lot of titles and he didn't want people to get hung up on those titles and he didn't want that hierarchy to have that negative effect. And in his extreme, he didn't have it. And it got really confusing within the culture because people want to know what the hierarchy is. Like, we do need that as humans in a system, that we need to know what are the chains and who are giving orders and who's in charge. But the culture of that there could have been more lightheartedness around that. But in this case, people were changing their titles based on what they needed. And that's not the only company I've been in that has done that. And there was a lack of structure and it was causing a lot of problems. And so the point is like this little thing that happened to him made how he showed up different. And he didn't see the effect that it was having by having this lack of structure. And him, it was a positive thing. And he couldn't see that it was creating a negative impact as well. And so our businesses and how we show up in them, we are the CEO of our business. We are the founder. We are instilling our values, whether it be our positive traits or negative traits. And I don't like to put a whole positive negative on it, but some are beneficial and not beneficial. Let's say that are trickling out into everything we do. So if we lack consistency in our own personal lives, most likely there's going to be a lack of consistency in our business. And if part of our business values and our why is about building trust, and we lack consistency, well, guess what? Consistency relates in the mind as trust. So we need to get back to making decisions from our why and being very intentional and strategic, and we get to heal ourselves in those processes. But if we do not look at it from this point of view, we might miss those. And we start making decisions in the spur of the moment and making decisions based on our nervous system and how our nervous system is reacting and our beliefs, and we're not making it from the business's purpose, the business's why, and what we've outlined here. And that can be a struggle if you have not done all of the self-development work, and that's what we're doing. So important for us to do the self-development work as a business owner and the self-development that's needed as a business owner. So I'm going to encourage you to drop your why in the comments. I want to encourage you that each and every session, each and every even networking event or anything, like to state your why so that you're like saying it in your sleep, that it just rolls off your tongue even when you're feeling crappy, so that we can really start to integrate it into every cell of our being. Now, last session, in session 3, I did a little bit of a hybrid. We kind of broke into session 4 a little bit as well. And so we are going to deeper dive into that today, kind of starting to reinforce some of the things that we've learned. I mean, we've been doing that a little bit each each session, but continuing to reinforce as we go. So, small businesses that operate with clarity, discipline, and consistency don't just make sales. They create movements. And that's really where I am lovingly nudging you towards, is creating a movement, creating an impact, creating something, I mean, you look at the 60s, right? Like most of us are aware of like the movements that were happening in the 60s. I want you to make a splash. I want you to show up as an activist, as a missionary, that we are also selling our products as the tools to help that cause, to help that movement. Because when you have a movement, it's like having a train and you're inviting people to jump on the train. Some people are going to stay on the train. Some people are on the train for just a little bit. Some are on the train for a while. Some are just staring at the train, and that's okay too. And allowing yourself to have that movement. So as we look at like what we were trying to do this past week, I guarantee it's a lot. So this is the same homework for this week too. Continue to write down your why statement. I want you to write it down each and every week. Review your last 5 business decisions, as I just talked about. Identify your top 5 engaged customers and audit your messaging. We have to constantly have our hands in this until it is just natural. So, as always, we are looking at concepts, discussions, and those actionable takeaways as we continue. So, many people assume that customers buy based on price or features, but loyalty comes from alignment of values. Growing a business is not just about marketing. It's about building a following that truly believes in what you do. And this is where in social media marketing, which we won't go all into social media marketing today, but within social media marketing, like there is some confusion of business owners wanting to go into influencer status and then how we function as a business. And when you function from this way, where you're creating a movement, you will have both. You will have both because an influencer doesn't always sell, and a business doesn't always have an influencer status. But when we can get to the point where our business creates such a movement that you, as the business owner, are a part of that movement, that you, as your business, is part of that movement, and being careful because it is very easy to like be like, here's my account, it's my business, and it's me. And if you're establishing a business that has a movement, in all reality, the goal would be is that you have a business account, let's say on Instagram, and you are the face of that business, but then there's also you. And if you only want to have one account, then we're going to treat it as if here is my business, and I am the face of that business. That we don't just put all of our like random thoughts there. If we do, then we have 2 separate accounts. I'm a big Mind Valley fan. If you don't know what Mind Valley is, it's okay. It's a learning platform that is spiritual and self-development. And Vishen, who is the founder, he has Vishen account, and then he has the Mind Valley account, right? Because Mind Valley is the business, and there are multiple people in the business, and the business is growing and doing things. But he also has an equally big following of what he is particularly doing. And you don't have to start that way, but you want to grow that way. So growing a business is not just about marketing, it's about building a following that truly believes in what you do. So most small businesses struggle because they lack a clear why, making it hard to attract loyal customers. So to your customers and looking on your social media, is it very clear what your why is? Is it very clear what your why is? And I'm doing this with you all. I am constantly looking at this, constantly checking myself. And sometimes our why develops and shifts, but sometimes it's just because we're not in it enough to be super clear and to be lit up and to just be like, wanting to shout it from the rooftops, like when you first fall in love, and then maintaining that love and excitement and being really in it. So, trying to serve everyone instead of trying to focus on those who believe in them is also another problem. So, we were talking about this in our sales training just a moment ago, in another class. And, you know, trying to convince people that they need it is not what we're here to do. We are here to put the information out there to attract people who are ready for change, who are already believers, who are like, yes, they feel like finally someone gets me, or someone did the thing that I've been thinking about, for someone to see it and be lit up. Another problem is that um, businesses don't have a plan. There's no plan, right? Like, do you have a business plan? Even if it's a one-page business plan of like, here's my business, here's its mission, here's its vision, here's how we make money, here's how we make an impact. Like, do you have that? Because if you're just like, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out really what my business sells and what my packages are, then your business isn't really up and functioning fully. That you're still tiptoeing around it, that you're still in the planning stage and testing stage. Don't get stuck in that stage. Get yourself a plan and then take action on it and then pivot. Don't play, which I say like throwing paint at the wall and see what sticks. That only works for so long, and then you got to shift out of that. All right. So your business doesn't need a traditional business plan, as I just mentioned. Like you can have the core basics, but it does, because it does need that vision, strategy, and a consistency to grow. So our discussion prompt is, again, and I know I did that. I think this did this one last session too, is think of a business or a leader that you follow, but what makes you trust them? What makes you trust them? And I'm really going to encourage you, whether it's a character you watch on Netflix that is not real, whether it could be a politician, although I don't know many that we could trust, but it could be, sorry, it could be a politician. It could be another business owner that you admire, maybe locally, maybe on a larger scale. And if you don't know of someone or you can't think of someone, like be on the lookout for that. Because I guarantee there are. You just can't think of them in the moment. All right. So people adopt new ideas in phases. Your success really is going to depend early on those early adopters. So if you're fairly new in your business or you're still in that startup phase, that's going to be the people who took a chance on you. So those early adopters. Early adopters spread the message if they believe in your why too. So these are people that like they're going to be your boots on the ground, your grassroots people that are helping you spread the message, that are excited, that are cheering and rooting for you. And so that just continues for us to come back to like, stop marketing to everyone. Stop fearing, and I can speak from experience, stop fearing leaving someone out. This has happened to me so many times where I primarily work with women. But when I started calling things like Awaken Your Inner Goddess, or and I did that one like years and years ago, the Rich Goddess Activation, and I started the Warrior Goddess training. I was doing that at one point, and I had a couple clients that were men, and they were like commenting kind of nasty on my posts, going, like, I feel left out. Like, why are you always just speaking to women? It's turning me off. Like, and I'm like, because I only have three male clients and 90% are women. Like, um, so it was like, just ignore my marketing then. Like, if you don't like it, there are going to be some people and it's going to be just a handful, but you keep staying true to who your people are. The first time I boosted one of my posts, and it was a really cute photo. I just got this shirt, and it was like women support strong women, or something like that. And took a photo, and it had like a really nice message. And because when you run ads, this happens. Had some guy getting on there, and he'd be like, "Oh, feminist," and I was like, This has nothing to do with being a feminist. It's talking about like this problem in female culture of like women wanting to compete against each other and tear each other down." And um explained it all to him, and then he just kept going like he was trolling. Like there was no, like, he was just trying every angle to start an argument, no matter how much love I gave him. But the funny thing was, is a lot of people who really supported me, who didn't really pay much attention to the post, it got them to pay attention. And they actually started like getting on there and be like, "I'm showing you love. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, and like ignore these haters." And it was like, it was kind of fun to see that, because otherwise, I don't know if they really would have commented otherwise. Like, there are lots of people that are watching you silently and talking about you, not where you're aware of it, and in good ways, because they really love your mission. And it might be just that they're just not super savvy on the internet, or you just haven't pitched your offer in a way that made them say yes. And we'll get into that more. We're not doing sales training here, but this does lead to sales, right? Because that's what all of our goals really truly are, is making an impact, and we make a bigger impact when we sell. So stop marketing to everyone. Focus on the first 15 to 20% who naturally align with your brand's values. Those are your early adopters. Those are the people we want to get super curious about, that these can be our avatars that we set up for our business, to reference and build out more marketing around to attract more people of them, because there are more people of them. The earlier adopters, there's a great video in a class that I had taken at university, and it was talking about early adopters, and it showed this, it's like at a festival or something, and there was music playing, and it was like the people that get on the dance floor first are those early adopters, and then once a couple people just start it, she's just waiting for the people to start it. It's one person, two people, and then other people go, "Oh yeah, that looks fun. Okay, I'm gonna do it." And then they're coming in, and then they start moving in droves. And like someone had videoed this, and it was like a real scenario, but it was just this perfect viewing of how this works. And it was just seeing how, like, literally within 10 to 15 minutes, it went from one person to hundreds of people randomly dancing in a field at a festival. So we just need the people who are bold enough to be the first people to try. And we need to reward them and reward the early people. And because again, they're going to be the ones that are bolder, they're out there talking about you. All right. So Tesla and Apple, they didn't try to win over the mass market first. They focused on their early adopters, tech enthusiasts, before expanding. So, as part of your homework assignment is, who are your early adapters? Are you spending enough time nurturing them? So people don't buy logically, they buy emotionally. I teach this in nearly all the trainings. So we want, they buy emotionally and they justify with logic. They buy with emotion and they justify with logic. So we always want to give the emotion qualities first, and then we justify with logic. I'm just going to keep saying it over and over until you're hearing it in your sleep. Trust is built over time through consistency and emotional connection. So, how we build that emotional connection and that trust is be transparent, share your story, your values, your struggles. As we get to the story brand book, we're going to define those stories even more. Be consistent. So your messaging, your branding, your service, you're going to need to post the same thing over and over, and you're going to feel like you're repeating yourself all the time. But that consistency helps people understand who you are, what you do, and that you're here for the long run, that you're not just hopping around trying a bunch of stuff out. Be relatable. Show how your why connects to your customers' pain points. So many small businesses don't document their why, their mission, their core values. So I'm asking you, like, have you documented it? And because they haven't documented it, they don't have that anchor to come back to. I, at one point, gosh, I mean, this was several years ago. I feel like I kept recreating it because I didn't have it in one spot where I could consistently find it. And then I would go back and find it occasionally, and I would be like blown away, and didn't even remember writing it. And it was unfamiliar to me. Write it, document, hang it on the wall, right? You've ever been in an employer's workspace where they have like the mission everywhere for everyone to see? Like, are you even doing that for yourself? Does your brand make an emotional connection with your customers? Does it make an emotional connection with you? Or are you just focused on selling? So, how we communicate your why clearly. So, the brain processes stories and emotions better than facts and features. Could you agree? Right? Like there's that certain population that facts and features hit them a little bit better. But for the majority of the population, stories and emotions land better than facts and features. In fact, we can reinforce facts and features with stories and emotions. So customers are going to trust brands that communicate their why consistently through story, through values. And where you can apply this, so this is just some of the places where you can apply it is on your social media website. So your why should be on your homepage. It should be in your bio. It should be, again, reinforced inconsistently everywhere. In your customer service and messaging, so reinforcing your values and your interactions. And if you look at my business page versus my personal page, you're going to see this a lot more on my business page because I have that difference of they align very much, but they are different in how I approach those. So reinforce your values in every interaction. Email marketing and sales, you can speak about your why, not just your products. So I do this in my newsletter that goes out once a month. Is I have like a theme of the month, and I'll have like a teaching lesson for people. And I talk about my why from my perspective, from my thought leadership. And then at the bottom of that, I have like my next 3 events that are coming up. But it's mainly for value. And then if they'd like to know and like to connect, like those are tools and resources for them. So the human brain seeks familiarity. I was just talking about this one in the sales training too. Like you can connect with something and something you have in common, familiarity, is predictability, and consistency builds trust. So familiarity, predictability, consistency builds trust. Brands that constantly change their messaging confuse their customers. And this is probably something that I could get better about. Like I talk about hypnotherapy and then I talk about business. And my connection point often is like being a business owner is the biggest self-development project you will ever be on. And that's my connection point. And having these things that you're consistently repeating, where someone could be like, well, Izzy always says, and they could quote me, is a good thing. Okay. So, how you can do this, of course, there's marketing where you can like use the same brand colors, fonts, language, and marketing. That does create consistency and trust. But then reinforcing your why in every email and every post and every customer touch point. So, your mini activity Write down 3 ways your business can reinforce its why. Just told you a couple, but I would really like, how can you do that in your email? How are you going to do that in a post? How are you going to do that in customer touch points? Even consistent content scheduling can create consistent communication there. And you can schedule that in Meta, but um, you could also like have timers on your phone. You don't have to create a brand new post every single time, too. Even when I was managing social media accounts, there was always like a core 5 posts that we would share throughout the month so that people would see that all the time. So Trader Joe's, like they've got a really great consistent brand. It keeps it quirky, fun brand voice in every email and every store sign. Chick-fil-A is also really good about staying core to its values. It even doesn't operate on Sundays. Could you imagine how much feedback and pushback they've gotten on that? I know I'm one. I crave Chick-fil-A on Sundays, not any other day. Um, and it's made me have to shift and going, okay, I better like consistently make it on another day. And they can do that by having like a specialty night where it's like kids eat free on Wednesday or something like that. And if we start making that a habit, then we'll build a habit of wanting to crave it on that night or around the weekdays. So many small businesses, they do lack the brand guidelines, making it inconsistent. And that takes time. Again, it's a habit. And again, this mini activity is write down 3 ways to reinforce your business why. All right. Great brands communicate their why first. So I think we've covered some of this. I think I missed one. Yes, here it is. So, and we've already kind of talked about this one. So, when your business is making random decisions, you lose trust. Many business owners don't filter their decisions. They make them reactively instead of strategically. So, checking yourself on that. As we wrap up for today, just a reinforcement of the homework. Write down your why statement. I know it probably feels daunting where you're like, it feels like too much work. That's why we are doing this week by week instead of one single book study and just going over it, or even 2. We're breaking it down into parts because we want to be able to implement this. There's a difference between knowing and then being able to use it and implement it. Review your last 5 business decisions. Identify your top 5 most engaged customers. Really, please do that one. And audit your messaging. Please do that one. Okay. If you were going to skip any of these, skip number 2. Oh, that's still important, or I wouldn't have even put it on here. But maybe you do 3 and 4, and then you do 1. That's okay too. You don't have to do these in the exact order. All right. Thank you. And I'll see you for next session for part 5. We'll kind of start to transition into that 6 too, and then we wrap up at part 6, and then we'll be moving on to the story brand. And I will say there is a new story brand book. You do not have to get that one. Is it here? Yeah. So the one that I will be doing is the old one because I'm not buying the new one. Like I don't need to. This one is brilliant. It's beautiful. So we'll be going through this one. Uh, we'll be doing this one even more in depth of like applying it because it's so important that this will be more of like a training on how to build your brand story and talking about that because there's like your brand story, there's the brand story of your business. And he uses his background in cinema and like how we create like a Netflix show that keeps you coming back, how we create a movie, like the peaks, and that we're going to do that for our business. Uh, if you have not stated your why, it's going to be really hard to do this. So make sure that you've got this down, and then we're going to move on to this. All right. I will see you for the next session.